Each species in Space Station 14 has different organs which will process reagents differently. This also means it will process the quantity of reagents differently depending on what species you are. We will start off with the baseline of humans. A lot of species share the human organs, so by looking at humans first, it becomes easy to understand. Well, how does one view the organs of a human being? We need to refer to our friend known as the Bang Stick Gibber. Say hi, Bang Stick Gibber. Humans, as you can probably expect, have human organs. The human organs are all fairly unique, but the organ that we are most specifically focusing on right now is the heart. The reason why we are focusing on the heart is the heart processes medical reagents for humans and any species that has a human heart. We can double check this by looking in the metabolism group and examining that medicine will metabolize at a rate of 1 in humans. What this means is that when you take any form of medicine, it will be able to metabolize 2 total at a time at a rate of 1 per second. And to make that even more clear, I will inject myself with 3 different healing chemicals at once, and you'll notice that only 2 of them randomly will drop by 0.5 per half a second, meaning 1 total per second. So this is a way to directly see how humans will process these healing reagents. The stomach and stuff can also process separate reagents at a time, so if you eat food and medicine at the same time, they'll process by separate organs, but at the same rate in a human. But the medical ones are the only ones that really matter. It doesn't really matter gameplay wise how fast you metabolize nutrients. It can, but it's not worth confusing the video and making it more complicated than it needs to be. As stated, there's other organs that process different things. For example, the lung can process 3 max reagents at a time. However, those groups are only specifically gases. So this is something like if you breathe in a chemical gas. I believe this also is specifically for foam as well, but that might also be on touch. So things can get a little bit confusing here. Now, a real oddity comes in the form of these slimes. Slimes have their own unique organs entirely. They feature no human organs. They have their lungs, which are actually really the same as human lungs in terms of how they process reagents. We can examine this by looking at the metabolism component. Again, it will say they process 3 at a time, and it is at the same rate of 100. So that's no different. However, the slime core, which is interesting, the brain of a slime is actually what does the metabolizing. And this acts as their stomach, their kidneys, anything that processes the other agents. It's very interesting because it's also their brain. Slimes, however, can process 6 medical reagents at a time, or any of any kind. So if you actually were to eat, drink, inject 6 medicines at a time, you would actually be competing with your other metabolism groups of what gets processed first. However, we can still just examine that the metabolism rate of everything is still just 1. So this is very easy to know that you will process half a unit per second, depending on the reagent. Some reagents are automatic. Some reagents will process more slowly, regardless of your metabolism rate. But again, to keep things simple, slimes actually can have 6 reagents tick per second, and I will just showcase this physically on a slime so it becomes more or less confusing. Here's the slime's current internal capacity of reagents. We'll see all 6 get processed at the same rate. So slimes can actually be overdosed slightly easier with multiple reagents, meaning that they're more susceptible to getting overdosed with multiple chemicals. Because like in a human, for example, you wouldn't process it all at the same time. But that means slimes have the unique benefit of being able to make like insane syringe combos of like 6 of the best medicines in the game and inject them all at once and not have to worry about not getting the healing actively. Again, this normally doesn't make much of a huge gameplay change, but it is interesting noting that this gameplay change even exists in the first place. And the lizard will introduce us to animal components. However, if we note that most of the organs are still human related. They have an animal heart though, which looks just like a human heart. They also have animal liver and animal stomach, reptilian stomach specifically, so not quite animal. However, if we look at the animal heart, there's actually no real difference here. Just like it looks the same as a human heart, and it metabolizes the same medicines at the same rate. So lizards and any other species with the animal heart don't have any real difference here. However, the reptilian stomach is different, and the real difference here in the metabolism is that it can process 3 reagents at a time, which is not abnormal. However, this means they can only process certain foods because they have a different type of stomach. I feel like this type of stuff will become more relevant when surgery is a thing of wanting to like pick certain organs to have. but as of right now on Wisden related code, this is just something you're stuck with your species as your restrictions. You can't really fix or change this. But again, for medicine, lizards are no real different. Arachnids do have their own unique organs as well, but they have an arachnid heart, kidneys, liver, and stomach. We're going to examine the heart though, because this is what is determinant of the healing for an arachnid. So it can process 2 reagents, as we can physically see here. However, it processes medicine at a rate of 1. So again, there actually is no difference here for healing. Other than the heart, the arachnid does have unique organs, but they don't really have any major gameplay implications. I believe at one point they used to have slower metabolism, but that is seemingly gone from the game. The metabolism rates are all still 1. So unless I'm mistaken about something, I think it's really just a matter of they have different looking sprites, but it doesn't actually change anything about their metabolism. Dwarves are really just reskin humans in terms of their organs. Interestingly enough, there are labeled as dwarf organs, but I believe the only difference here is that dwarves can actually slightly heal off alcohol, so it's a slightly different metabolism there, but I think they still metabolize everything at the same exact rate. So again, in gameplay difference here, there's basically none. Diana are very unique in the fact that when they don't actually drop organs, they drop nymphs, which have the different parts of the Diana's organs in them. Of the unique organs here, we have the lungs, the stomach, and the brain. But here is where the oddity lies. They actually metabolize their medicine through their stomach, and Diana, like slimes, can metabolize 6 at a time at a rate of 1, so their healing is identical to slimes, which does make them pretty interesting in that regard. Another difference is that their lungs allow them to breathe carbon dioxide and oxygen, and interesting enough, the description actually mentions that. Vox do have their own unique organs as well. They have the Vox lungs, which, as you can imagine, will have the description meaning they must breathe nitrogen. Anyway, if you look at the rest of the organs, we see that they actually have human organs, so they process reagents just like humans do. So no real gameplay change there other than their lungs. And last but not least, we have the good old Moth. The Moth features mostly human organs. They have a animal heart though, but that's just the same as a human heart in terms of processing the same amount of reagents at a time. And they have the unique like Moth restrictions of not being able to eat solid foods. That's their stomach difference. But really, to sum this whole video up, the gameplay changes are Diana and slimes could process 6 reagents. Every other species in the game only processes 2 medicinal reagents. And the food and stuff is slightly different depending on your species and dietary restrictions. But that's pretty much it. Does any of this really matter? I have no idea. Will this video really help anyone? I have no idea. I'm standing in a sea of blood-giving, mindless NPCs reading stats. That's my life right now.